sometimes we often think we have very dire decisions to make between good and bad. Like, what's a good decision, what's a bad decision? But actually, sometimes the decisions we have to make aren't a decision between good and bad. Sometimes they're a decision between good and great. Hey, Aura here, Happy New Year. Just wanted to send you this message to wish you a wonderful 2024 in advance. But beyond that, I wanted to give you a word of encouragement because I think it might be something that might help you as you go along in the months that 2024 brings for you. Let's go. So the first thing I want to tell you is that sometimes we often think we have, very dire decisions to make between good and bad. Like, what's a good decision, what's a bad decision? But actually, sometimes the decisions we have to make aren't a decision between good and bad. Sometimes they're a decision between good and great. Now that has many connotations and different things to think about. First of all, it means that sometimes, rather than wasting too much time in making a decision, it might be better to just make that decision, especially when you realize that you do have a decision to make between good and great. So either option you choose will be fine. Either option you choose will be fine. And that means that you can actually focus on making that decision quick enough such that you can then go ahead and drill deep and work hard at something, and even for a prolonged period of time, so that you can start to see results. So you can get started early and start seeing results. That's something to bear in mind, because sometimes I face analysis paralysis, where there's a decision I have to make and I'm not sure what's best. I'm not sure if I should choose A or B, and I spend so much time trying to choose between A and B, when in reality the outcome of choosing either A or B isn't too different. Sometimes it's okay, either could have been fine, but because I've wasted so much time in trying to decide which between the two, I'm not able to spend enough time actually maximizing whatever choice I do make. So the important thing here is just to remember that sometimes you have a choice between good and great, not good and bad. In which case, make a decision and move forward with it. Now, another thing to bear in mind with this good versus great decision you have to make is that sometimes it means you're going to have to make choices. Now, I know I've talked about decisions, but actually make choices rather than choose to do everything because everything seems good or everything seems great. It may be that you choose one option. Choose the option that best suits you. I'll give you an example to illustrate this. So I was out with some family friends of ours, and I was just singing, just absent-mindedly, and one of them was like, "Oh, alright, you have a really great voice. How about singing in the choir? Or do you sing in the church choir?" And I was like, "No, I don't." It's like, "Oh, how come? Why not?" And I was like, "Well, I could sing in the church choir, and it could be good, but then there are many things involved with that. There's the practice time, there's the, getting better at it and all that. And while I could have a good impact there, I know that I have a greater impact if I focus on other strengths of mine. Now, I could choose to try and do everything, so do choir, do multimedia, but actually I know that my bigger strength is in the multimedia department. It's also where I can make a greater impact, and so that's where I've chosen to focus most of my time until the time when I switch to join a different department for a different reason. But the point I'm trying to make here is that yes, I could have gone into the choir, but I had a choice between good and great, and I chose to make a decision, and I went for the multimedia department instead of the choir because I felt that was where I was able to build my skills and also have the greatest impact. So sometimes you just got to make a decision between good and great, and the fact that you don't go for something good is okay. Learning to say no to good opportunities so you can say yes to great opportunities is also a very important skill to learn. So in this 2024, I want you to be deliberate about the decisions you make, the thoughts you decide to do, the habits you decide to pick up. Those are going to be very important because you want to be able to look at 2024 on December 31st of this year and say, you know what? I'm really glad I was deliberate. I'm really glad I decided to do X, Y, Z. It could be deciding to do maybe 30 minutes of exercise a day, or even 10 minutes of exercise a day, or 10 minutes of walking a day. Now, it might not seem like much, but these things compound. Habits build up. You got to ask yourself intentionally, okay, what is the good or great thing I can do in this year, and I can be intentional about it. And it doesn't have to be many things. It can be one thing, but one thing you can measure and look back on and say, you know what, I did this consistently over the whole year and I was able to achieve it. Something I did in the past year, although it did take me longer than a year to do, was to read the Bible back to back. It's something I've been thinking I wanted to do, and For me, it was something, my goal was to read it through and through, as opposed to necessarily fitting it into the space of 1 year, because sometimes I just don't quite get to read as much of it in a day as I want to. But what I did is my intention was every day, as much as possible, listen to the Bible. So what I did, rather than read it, I instead listened to it. So I would do so when I was getting ready. So whilst brushing my teeth, taking a shower, or getting dressed. And I made sure I listened to a few chapters. I was following a Bible reading plan anyway. So I was following that and just making sure through my day, like I attached it to another habit that I was doing and just made sure I kept doing it. And eventually I completed it before the end of the year, which felt really good. Now, like I said, I think it took me longer than a year, because I think I started in 2022 rather than 2023. But the important thing for me wasn't so much the finishing it in a year as it was important for me to finish it. So for me, that just showed me that consistency pays off, and I did do it, and I feel like I did learn a lot from that. And even just Bible principles is what that are very important in my life going forward, and have been there to kind of guide me in some decisions I've had to make. It's been invaluable, right? So again, be intentional, be deliberate about the things you want to achieve. I know for me, I need to be intentional about my time, my use of time, how I choose to spend my time. Again, always making those decisions between good and great. Yes, there are many things I can do with my time, and I'm the sort of person who often takes on a lot of things and then gets to a point of overwhelm, and I'm trying to reduce that this year. So for me, the intentional decision I need to make is to think, okay, each time I have something new I think could be interesting, I add it to my list. I've actually got a list of activities that I've told myself I want to do, and I'm constantly reviewing those and moving things either up the chain or down the chain, and knowing to myself that of this whole list, I'm probably only going to do 2 or 3 things well, and maybe those are the 2 or 3 things I will focus on. Sometimes I need to review it and see, okay, maybe there's certain periods when to focus on something else that wasn't necessarily priority initially but can become priority now. But in a sense, have a way of tracking the list of things I'm involved in, and then making sure that I'm always working on the most important things and the most important things to me. So this is something I'm going to be taking into 2024. Like I said, just constantly thinking between good and great. When you have a decision to make between bad and good, it's fine, make the good decision. But when you have a decision to make between good and great, sometimes it's not always clear, but recognizing that it's a decision between good and great, and deciding to make the decision quickly if the choice between A and B is not particularly consequential, then make the decision quickly and then hammer in on the choice you've made. Or if it is consequential, take some time to think about it and then choose the option that would be greater, knowing that you're not going to be able to do the other option, which was the good option. You're not going to be able to do the 2 of them. You choose the one that you want to focus on and then hammer in on that. So be consistent on that one that you've chosen. For me, it's making choices this year, and I'm looking forward to this year being a fantastic year. A year I look back on and think, wow, a lot happened this year, but a lot of great things happened this year. So this year I'm going to be very intentional. I hope you get to do the same as well. All right, I'll catch you in the next video. Take care and have a brilliant, wonderfully blessed 2024. All right, take care. Bye.